Hey everybody, this is Eli Freestone, and you're watching my Week 3 reflection video for Java 2, Term 1405. This week we're extending our applications we've been working on for this class and adding in fragments. So mine's based on the new release DVD service from the Rotten Tomatoes API, and overall I think the project went really well. The concept of fragments is fairly simple. It's kind of a building blocks type of deal, but I can definitely agree that when it comes time to implement them, things can get pretty complicated pretty fast. Thankfully, because I already had my application essentially set up, it was more of just moving stuff over into my fragments and then adjusting things to make sure everything worked correctly. That definitely helped out, but I could definitely see it could get really complicated if I were building from scratch and implementing fragments from the get-go. It would definitely take a lot of planning ahead to get everything to go smoothly, although it still wouldn't be impossible. It's definitely a doable project, and fragments are a lot of help, actually, especially if you're planning on deploying for multiple devices, tablets and phones and whatnot, as well as being able to change your layout based on how the orientation of the phone is. Anyways, let's go ahead and do a quick run through the code here. My main activity and detail activity are fairly similar, other than pulling out what I've moved into my fragments. I did have to modify a little bit of stuff from my other classes, such as JSON data, just to implement the fragment instead of directly implementing the activities themselves. So there was a little bit of finagling that had to happen. But anyways, my main activity fragment handles all the button clicking or item selection. So the new release button and the selecting items in the list view, at which time it creates the intent after it grabs all the information for that movie. And then it also has a logic to check to see if the device is in landscape mode or not. If it is in landscape mode, it skips the start activity for result and just displays that DVD info directly on the second pane, which would be the details view in landscape. And then if it's in portrait, it obviously does the way it did last week, where it starts the activity and passes that intent and then moves on over to the different activity. So let's go ahead and pop over to the details activity fragment. That's actually one thing that I think I should have put a little bit more thought into, is the naming of my files. As I was adding the fragment files, I just popped fragment on the end of the name. But if I have multiple files open, then I don't actually see it. Like the way I have it set up right now, details activity, this is actually the fragment, but you can't see fragment. So that definitely can cause some issues, especially when you're kind of in a hurry. So I think I might just start with fragment or do something along those lines, just to help differentiate it. A lot easier to tell which one is which, and so you can move on and get to the coding or whatever you needed to do. So anyways, let's the detail activity fragment handles displaying all of the movie details onto the details activity, and so it unpacks the intent and then displays that into the text view. It also handles the movie rating bar, and then it has a custom method that's called from my main activity fragment. If the phone is in landscape mode, it can directly call this display method instead of going through the activity for results. And then this one also has an interface with a single method, and that would be related to my implicit intent button, get more info button specifically. And what that does is it opens up a browser and takes you to the RottenTomatoes.com website, and then searches for the movie that you're currently viewing in the details view. That's all handled actually over on my detailsactivity.java, but it's handled through the interface. Main activity also has an interface related to the on activity for results to help that. Help me add that in for other places where it was required, so I could call it. Anyways, let's go ahead and do a quick run through, a quick demo of the application here, so I can show you how it handles landscape mode and stuff like that. It still does everything it did before, other than it doesn't tell you when you what your rating was selected when you come back from the detailed view. We were actually asked to disable that part, just because when you flip it over into landscape mode, it does actually automatically pop that up. So let's go ahead and display it here. And I also tweaked my list view a little bit more, made it a little bit more custom. The DVD title is much larger, and then the release date and rating are above each other. I'm not really all that happy with how I'm displaying, that this is the release date and the rating. Thankfully, these are fairly obvious that that's what they are, but I wish I could just come up with something a little bit better than that. And I also wanted to try and adjust the rating so it sits more underneath the release date. So let's go ahead and flip it over to the landscape mode. And see if this wants to cooperate. Okay, there we go. One thing I did want to try and do, but I unfortunately wasn't able to, is to put a default detail, automatically select the first or something along those lines. I unfortunately wasn't able to get that working correctly, but you can select one of the items and then it changes over in the detail view. Let's go ahead and put it back into portrait and click over. For some reason, the Droid It screen's having some issues when it comes to me flipping the screen again, so I'm going to go ahead and just leave it here. I just wanted to show that once you're on the detail view screen, not only does Get More Info still work, we'll go ahead and skip that for now, but then if you flip it back over into landscape mode, it does also save that information and automatically displays that into the detail pane that's currently being shown. The way I set that up, I'm kind of not really happy with, though. That's something that I really wish I could have done better. Let's go ahead and pop back over to the code so I can show you what I'm talking about. I'm actually doing that on the on activity result. I'm passing all of the DUD info back over as an intent, the same way that I was doing it with the ratings alert, but now I'm adding all the information, and then I'm calling that display movie details again. The problem with that is it only works when you're coming from the details view. If you were to flip the phone back to portrait and then back to landscape again, it does lose that information because it's not actually saved to the bundle. I did try and get that to work. I tried to work in the logic with my code that's already put in to save stuff to the bundle, but things really didn't work as I thought they would. Unfortunately, due to time, I had to come up with a new way to get it going. It does function, but I'm just not really happy with the way it came out. So yeah, I guess that's about it. This has been Eli Freestone, Week 3 for Java 2, Term 1405. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.